everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I am here today to give you my January wrap up for all the reading I did in January, and I've changed the format. I decided that waiting until the end of the month to talk about every single book that I read that month was not necessarily working for me. I found like I lost some of my enthusiasm about the read by waiting. Inevitably, the books that I read at the end of the month were ones that I was able to give a more interesting review for than I was for the ones that I'd read at the beginning. So I changed the format this month, and I read, as soon as I finished a book, I did my little review and wrap up of it. So it makes for a more choppy video, but I'm hoping that that you all enjoy it. I guess it's a bit less formal, a bit more vlog style reviews, and please let me know once you've had a watch what you think of the format, if you find it works for you or if you don't really enjoy it, and then I'll kind of decide from there. But I think for me so far I like it better as a format. The only book that I won't have reviewed that you'll see here is Wintering: The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katherine May, and that is because I did a deep dive reading vlog of this book. So I will link that in the description box down below and at the end of the video in case you are interested in hearing my thoughts on this one. But every other book that I finished in January is included in the coming shorts, so please enjoy, and again, let me know what you think. And yeah. Hey everybody, so I just finished The Snow Child by Eowyn and Ivey, and it was a 5-star read for me. It's just so lyrically written. The character development is stellar. I mean, I think that the depth of the characters and their way of interacting with the world and what is just phenomenal. The story follows Jack and Mabel. They are homesteading in Alaska. I think the time period is post World War I, so the 1920s, and they're struggling to make a go of it because they were very old when they made the decision to move there, and they had a child that they lost, and so that is kind of their great sorrow in their life, that they've never had a child. And from that ensues a relationship with a young girl, and I don't want to give too much of the plot away because I think it's got this magical element to it. It's got a folk tale, fairy tale element to it. The descriptions of Alaska in the winter and the seasons and nature are amazing, like just so compelling, and so you feel like you're there. And I think that because the author lives in Alaska, she was able to really bring it to life and make you feel like you're there. It's such a atmospheric and enchanting story that is perfect for reading in the winter season. So if you're going somewhere that you're going to be surrounded by snow, or you know, around the holidays in North America, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's just perfect for bringing you, like connecting you to the kind of magical aspects of winter, but also the kind of harsh aspects of winter. But it's very, it really fills the seasonal rhythms in such a perfect way. So I just highly recommend this. It was, you know, bittersweet, and you know kind of from the beginning that it's going to be a bittersweet story, but it's worth it because of its beauty and because of the journey that you go on when you're reading it. So it is super heartwarming. I really, really enjoyed it. So I'll definitely read. Eowyn Ivey has one other novel, so I will definitely read that in future. She's not a super prolific writer, it seems. This one was published in, I don't know when, 2012. So, and I believe her other novel was published in 2014 or 2016, something like that. So I'm not sure if she's still writing, if she's making more work, but you know, I think this is an example of someone who writes about where the place they know in a just fantastic manner. So really enjoyed this one, and I would recommend you guys checking it out. Hi everybody. I just finished The Year of the Monkey by Patti Smith on audio, and she is the narrator, which is a huge part of why I like to watch her, listen to her books on audio, because I love hearing her voice taking me through her books. So I've read Just Kids, which is about her relationship with the artist Robert Mapplethorpe, and I think that one, I gave that one 5 stars. I thought it was brilliant. It was more about her life and his life and their relationship, and it had a much more linear trajectory. Whereas The Year of the Monkey is about 1 year of her life, and it is, I think, specifically 2016 to 2017, but then there's more stuff brought into it near the end. Because I think the first part of the book was published in 2019, but it is obviously based on the Chinese zodiac, so it is the year of the monkey that she's coming into, and you follow her on this very meandering journey through that year. You meet a lot of the characters she's around, you travel with her, like hitchhiking and hitching rides with people, flying, visiting with friends that are not well. It's very poetic. It's very philosophical. She relays a lot of kind of fun observations about different art she's encountering, and talks about relationships that she no longer has, as some of her, like her partner died, her some of her different collaborators die in the story. So it's very stream of consciousness feeling. It's not very linear at all. So if you're not really into that, then I wouldn't say read this one, because it definitely doesn't have that same quality as Just Kids. But what I like about it is that I just love the way Patti Smith's mind works, and I love listening to her talk, and I love her poetic way of explaining her world. I also love how humble she is. She's not one of those celebrities that has this elevated, sophisticated, fancy lifestyle. She's very down to earth. She's very rock and roll. She's very caring about her friends, and you know, genuinely loves just being an artist, and I think she is an artist in the true sense of the word. So that's something that I just admire about her. I admire her as a person a lot, and so I definitely enjoyed this book. And yeah, that is all I have to say about that. I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't realize that the Year of the Monkey was the 3rd book and that the M Train was 2nd, but that's okay. I'll read the M Train eventually as well, and any other books she probably writes in the future. Good morning. I finished Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig Rice. and this is a fantastic book. It was a page turner for me. It's obviously not a very long book, so it's I would say it's fantastic for reading for a readathon or something like that. This is set in a Northern First Nation. I believe it's supposed to be Northern Ontario in Canada. And it is one of the just a perfect setting for a sort of apocalyptic scenario story because of the isolation that's already evident in the story. You're following Eowyn as the main character, and you're starting off with him as he's hunting moose. And Eowyn and his family are very involved in the reserve. They're very involved in the functioning of it, and they're also very connected to their roots, so the traditions of their people. One of the things I found quite interesting, though, was how the author wove the different scenarios that First Nations people have had to deal with in Canada through colonization into the story. And one of the interesting parts was that this nation had been relocated. So they were living much further north in the story after colonization than they had traditionally been living. But they adapted to that environment and they adapted to that reality. And one of the themes in the book is about that adaptation and how First Nations people, because of what they have endured under colonization, have already learned to adapt to really horrible conditions on in different levels. So whether it's residential schools, whether it's losing their land, whether it's having that removal from their traditional ways and their traditional foods and having to adapt to white culture. They've done all that. And in some cases, some of the families still could carry on their traditions despite the fact that they have been, persecuted against them and potentially had them removed. And then there were other members of the reserve and of the nation who had become more complacent and and felt that they wanted to disconnect from those traditional ways. And those were the people in the scenario who don't fare as well when the First Nation is basically cut off from the rest of the world, and they don't really know why. So I don't want to say too much more about the story because it is one of those page turner thrillers where you are following this family and you're trying to figure things out as they're figuring things out. But I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very well written, and it's a simple story. It's not something that is convoluted. There is symbolism in it. There is a lot of meaning behind it, but it's told in a very straightforward way. And I really appreciated that because I don't think it needed a lot of superlatives. It was really a really well thought out and crafted story. So highly recommend this. Hello, next book I'm going to wrap up for January is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. And I read this with my son Elliot, and we both liked it. He had a bit of issue with the ending, and we both felt that it wrapped up quickly and that we would have wanted a bit more of that resolution. And I think that may have been done on purpose because I know that Bitter, which is either a prequel or a sequel to Pet, is coming out in 2022. And so I think that that's kind of the root of that, is that this story has so much more that it could have gone into. I also would say that, I heard some people call this book middle grade, and it's young adult. It's young adult my son is almost 11, and I would say that's the, the youngest age you'd want to put this book with for a kid, just because there is a bit of strong language, but which is not really the problem for me. It actually facilitates discussion around some issues that you need to talk to your kids about anyway in a really great way. But I don't think a child younger than 10 would pick up on some of the subtlety. It's subtly done. It's very well done. And so you need to kind of be willing to have those hard conversations, and this book is facilitating those hard conversations with your kids. So, I would just say, like, not younger than 10, and be ready to, like, go there and really present a version of a world that is of our time, that is progressive, that is kind of pushing the boundaries of how families are created, what families are, who kids are, their own identities, knowing who they are themselves, like in their own selves. Beautiful writing as always. Really cleverly written in so many ways. Just characters that I really connected with, even though you're not really getting a super deep, in-depth look, because it is a brief book. It's not long, it's just coming up to just a little bit over 200 pages. So, it's really not long, but it has a huge impact. And I have yet to read an Akwaeke Emezi that I don't really like. So we're 3 for 3 so far. And that's, I would recommend this. I think even if you're not reading this with a child, I think it's a great book. So check it out. Hi everyone. So I ended up picking up this graphic novel on a whim at the library this month. It's called Four Faces of the Moon, written and created by Amanda Strong. And Amanda Strong is a Indigenous artist of mostly Métis descent. And this book was actually originally a stop motion film, but she was able to change it into a graphic novel. So it's a really, really beautiful book. And it is details of Métis history along with Amanda Strong's own personal story. I wanted to show it to you this way so you could kind of get a sense of the design. It's really, really stunning. And I really enjoyed it. I think it has a lot of great information, and it was another perspective of Métis culture that I had never heard about before. It jumps forward and back in time, and I believe this character is meant to represent Amanda herself, and you meet her grandmother, and you meet other ancestors who were very prevalent in Métis culture and fights for their rights over the years. And then at the end of the book, there's also a really great historical summary. So the Battle of Fatouche and aftermath of that battle. And so you get just another sense of Métis history from this afterword as well. And the afterword was actually written by another author. And I don't remember exactly who that was at the moment. But anyway, I think that, by Sherry Farrell Rosette. So I think if you're looking for a great graphic novel, something that, you could definitely read with younger people, but I think it's actually worth reading as an adult as well. It just gives a great, thorough perspective on Métis culture, And it introduces different ideas. And I think what I learned most from this book was that Métis culture is very diverse. There's so many different types of Métis people from different regions of Canada, and you can't really put them into one category because they're just of mixed race from many different communities coming together, and that was part of why they were so maligned, was because they weren't able to identify a specific culture, and that's of course what governments like to do. They like to categorize people. So yeah, definitely check this one out. I really enjoyed reading it, and it's kind of inspired me to try to read a graphic novel each month this year, so we'll see how I do with that. Okay. Hi everyone. Okay, so my last read of January was Russian Winter by Daphne Kalotay. Is that her name? Kalotay, yeah. Okay, so a few things about this. I had to get the large print edition of this book because the other one was not available from the library, so that was kind of, I mean, it's fine, but it makes it a huge, heavy, awkward book to read the large print. There's a lot going on in this novel. You are following three perspectives. Nina, who is our Russian ballerina, coming of age just as the war is ending. So, in her late teens, early 20s, just as World War II is ending. You have Drew Brooks, who is a appraiser or like a researcher at a jewelry auction, or at an auction house, but she kind of specializes in jewelry. And then you have Grigory, who is our Russian translator, Russian literature translator, who has a kind of mysterious past because he was adopted. So you're following three characters. I loved the parts set in Russia. They were really, really interesting because it's a time period in Russian history. So post-World War II, rebuilding after World War II, and also the kind of height of Stalin's brutality, I would say, where he's starting to crack down on lots of different types of people. And I don't even know if that's actually the case. Perhaps he was more brutal at other periods in his rule, but that is what I got from the book about him. So the parts set in Russia were really interesting, and then the rest of it is present day, sort of, but not really present day. I would say early 2000s, I think, Boston. I would say this is post 9/11, as President George W. Bush is getting ready, or is going to invade Iraq, or it's around that time. And the present day storyline was fine. It was a little bit too much of a romance for me. I wasn't that interested necessarily in the romance part, although there were some very emotionally compelling, interesting parts. But there's a lot going on in this novel, and the part that I really didn't like was that each section, each chapter begins with a listing of one of the pieces of jewelry that are going to be auctioned. So the whole basis of the story is that this famous ballerina from the Bolshoi time in Russia is auctioning off her jewelry collection. And so each time before the chapter begins, you get the lot listing of what this jewelry is and the estimated cost. And I found that part to be, I didn't care whatsoever about the jewelry, and I found like it was not necessary to even be in the novel. Like, I don't understand why you would bother to put that in. It just adds another page with some, you know, stats that are not that interesting to read. So the story itself, I did get wrapped up in the story. I did want to know what happened. There's a bit of a mystery, but I think it's kind of, some parts of it are kind of obvious, and then other parts of it are you don't really know, and the characters don't really know, and so you're finding out what the truth is with them. So so that part was good. So I mean, overall it was a very entertaining novel, and it did teach me about a time period in Russia that I didn't know much about, and I enjoyed it. I think if you like historical fiction, then definitely check it out. I think the historical parts are worth reading. The, you know, the modern day romance stuff, I think there could have been a bit more editing done to take out some of it, because I don't think all of it was really necessary to make the story move. So but other than that, I did enjoy it. And Russian Winter will be the conclusion of my January reads. I have just begun Boy Snowbird by Helen Oyeyemi, so this will continue into February, and I will wrap it up in my February wrap up, because I have run out of time. Today is January 29th, so I definitely will not be finished that book before the beginning of February. So thank you so much for watching my wrap up. Let me know what you think of this new format. It's definitely, you know, not my typical wrap up format, but I thought I would try it, and I feel like it helps me to keep the books more fresh, and have my reviews of them and my thoughts on them be more fresh for you, rather than waiting until the end of the month when I necessarily can't even remember my initial thoughts about the first books that I read in the month. So tell me if you like this way, or if you prefer the traditional way of doing wrap-ups, and I will be back again very soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing or liking if you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you again soon.